Hi everyone, my name is Anna Mankey, and for this week's discussion board, I decided to complete prompt G with the artifact C, which is the video entry. So, hi! And I have decided for the material covered for this video entry, I decided to do it on chapter 7, which is gender roles and power of the family. And I really wanted to specifically talk about, gender identity, maybe traditional versus more, I don't want to say liberal, but more like, I think they said like contemporary changes in what traditional gender roles have changed in the last 50 years or so. So I kind of wanted to touch on those a little bit. But before I get like dive deep into that, I want to talk about what I kind of just explain what prompt G is. So here on my I have the syllabus pulled up and I kind of just want to explain what prompt G is. So, prompt G is personal bias, which means reflect on some of your own beliefs and experiences, as well as the personal and any resulting personal biases that come from those experience, and just kind of relate it back to anything from the book or findings or anything. So, yeah. So that's kind of what I wanted to get into. And also, if you see my eyes kind of just shift behind me, I have the textbook pulled up because sometimes I tend to lose my train of thought, so it kind of just keeps me organized. So, gender identity and power relationships and power in the family. Let's go. So, I first want to start out with gender identity, and the book kind of defines gender identity as our internal sense of what we it's our internal sense of being male or female, or it's kind of just our internal belief of who we are, or like who we are is like our gender and how we choose to express those, either behaviorally or in our personality, or kind of just our internal self of what we believe our gender is and how we choose to express it. So I know the topic of gender identity can be very, it can have very like heavy opinions attached. Like, it can be very difficult for some people to talk about. It just, I think the concept of gender identity, especially in the last few years, you can see that it's kind of a very opinionated topic to talk about. But that's kind of what this prompt is. It's about what we believe, what are our biases, what are our opinions, what are our feelings. So I think it's important to talk about. So for me, I know that there have been, for me, gender identity is kind of whatever somebody wants to make out of it. I think gender identity should be open for people to kind of choose with and kind of align as they change and how they grow. I know some people get very heated because some people, may not align with what sex they were born, male or female, when they are assigned with at birth. So they may, come out as non binary, or they may be transgendered, which am in full support of. I have the personal opinion that as long as you're not hurting someone, either like mentally, physically, or emotionally, then do what you want to do. Be who you are. I think one beautiful thing about this country is we can choose to be who we want to be. We can choose to have the freedom to be who we are, and as long as we're not hurting anybody else or anything, whatever, I believe that we should be able to express who we are and be who we want to be. I know that some people may disagree, and that's okay. I believe that as long as we have common respect for one another and realize, hey, we may have opposing viewpoints about gender identity or just any topic in general, as long as we can have a civil conversation about it and just be respectful, then I think that's truly all we can ask. I also kind of wanted to talk about in the book how it talks about, traditional gender roles and how there's been um, a shift recently in the last 50 years of, you know, couples are more, splitting chores around the house, 50-50. There's been a kind of a new contemporary view, as the book the book calls it, where there's the mindset that both sexes can be very successful in the roles of the home and in a occupation or whatever they choose, and person versus the more like traditional view of um, gender roles, which is basically women. I think that kind of that traditional view, at least from my perspective, of way that like I grew up and how my grandparents had told me about like how traditional gender roles has changed. There was the traditional gender role for the longest time of, you get married and then, the men kind of go out and be the breadwinner. They have a job, they take care of, you know, kind of the job and the money and everything like that. Where women were be the homemaker, they would take care of the kids, they would, do the chores around the house, and they would just take care of the home, where the men were going off and finding an occupation. And I kind of align with the contemporary view of gender roles, where both sexes can be stay-at-home parents if they want to. They can both rock at an occupation and have a job. I think that it's great if the dad wants to stay home and take care of the kids while the mom goes out to work, or separate, where the mom, kind of stays at home and dad goes out to work, or however it works out for each family. I kind of believe that both sexes have the capability to do more of the like opposite what is opposite of their sex and what is traditionally viewed each sex kind of operates with, or kind of just um, aligns with. In the house growing up, I did have some health issues as a kid. And so my mom did stay home, take care of me and my older brother as a stay at home mom while my dad worked. And I have the utmost support and thankfulness and gratefulness for my mom, because being a stay at home parent, regardless if it's a mom or a dad doing it, it's a hard job. I feel like it's a full time job in itself. And I'm personally grateful for that. And then when my mom, when I was a little bit older and my health kind of slowed down, and like my health was I was back to being pretty healthy as a kid, my mom decided to go back to work. And so both my parents were working when I was in middle school, 5th grade into high school. And one of my mom just recently retired, but I have, from that experience of both having a stay-at-home parent when I was younger, and then as I grew up and my brother grew up, my mom went back to work. I think that provided me um a very cool, not cool perspective, but a very like grateful perspective of, and kind of the idea of, hey, it's okay if a woman wants to work and her husband wants to be the breadwinner, or they both want to work. Like, I personally believe that it is up to each person. And I know my personal bias and my personal opinion is I want to work. If I have a family, I want to be, in an office every day. Like, I want to be a therapist, so I want to be working and split the chores up 50-50 with my husband or whoever I'm with. But I think it's my personal opinion and my personal bias is that each person, I guess, even if like, I guess I don't like sex, like male, female, or just anybody in general, has the tools in their belt to be at a occupation in an office, or they can choose to be a stay-home parent, or something along those lines. Like, I feel like there is, everybody has the tools and everybody has the skills to do either. I think it's just up to them what they choose to believe, or not believe, but they choose to um, experience. And I am definitely grateful for my parents kind of showing my brother and I, hey, you can do whatever you want to do as long as you are happy, healthy, and safe. And that's what I personally believe in. If you want to be a stay at home dad, a stay at home parent, while the other partner, while your wife, husband, partner, significant other, whatever you want to say, is working, then you do you. I am always for you do what makes you feel comfortable and what makes you happy. I also noticed that from the book, it also said that American societies are moving away from like the male from male dominance, and it's called a equalitarian role, or an egalitarian role. I hope I am saying that right. And it's basically where there's an equal there's an equality, or there's a social equality between the sexes. So each sect kind of shared the equal responsibilities in the decision making in household and just in general. And growing up, I saw that where, my parents both had the equal responsibilities of making financial decisions, social decisions, decisions about me and my brother's health, just, raising kids and everything. And I definitely, like, even from like the 1950s, where people were, were women at home, and men went and have jobs, I think feel like you can see the shift from a more male dominated patriarchal type of society to one that is more equal between each sexes. And I personally believe that that's the right thing to do. Like, I guess I don't want to say bias, but like my like I guess bias. Like, my bias is like each partner in a relationship should have equal decision making. Obviously, talk with each other about what decision you're going to make regarding anything, because you want that open communication with your partner for it to be healthy and happy, and you want a stable relationship. So communication is so important. I know we discussed that, I believe, chapter 1 or 2, about in kind of all other chapters, that communication is key when you're in a relationship. So obviously, like, discussing with your partner what decisions you feel comfortable with and which ones you believe is the correct thing to do is important. But I definitely, as a woman, I feel it's very important that I am heard and I am equal. And my husband or my boyfriend, like, if we're making decisions, I definitely feel that I should be equal to him in our decision making. And I think that's important, because this is not the 1950s, the 1920s, you know, where men were more respected in regards to making big decisions, and women were kind of just like, okay, I'll follow whatever you want to do. Like, I'll just follow along. And so I think it's very important, and my personal bias is that everybody should have that equal chance of discussing how they feel, making a decision, and everything in that regard. And then the last thing I kind of just wanted to talk about was like, we have like the traditional gender roles, right? Where, the women are more of the caring and kind and understanding, and they listen, where the men are more, aggressive and confidence, and, are a go-getter and all of this stuff. And I think those kind of translated into the home, right? So, the traditional route was, again, women cook and clean and be the homemakers and everything, where men, are the ones being the breadwinners, having an occupation, all of those things. And I think it's very important that we kind of just, even when I was growing up, there were certain things that I saw that my parents did that were kind of an equal, kind of the more traditional roles of the household for a while. Like, again, as I said, my mom was a stay at home mom, so she would cook and she would clean and she would take care of the house, and while my dad was the breadwinner, would work and come home and dinner was made. He may have taken, he took out the trash and like did maintenance on the house, but kind of those traditional gender roles I kind of saw growing up. And then once I got older, I saw a shift even in my own household, where my mom was like, I cooked for the first 15 years of my life and I'm tired of it. She looked at my dad and was like, you can do it. And he was like, okay. So, my mom still helped with chores and everything, but I think it was cool that, and I thought it was important that my mom was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go out and work and be productive in other ways. And my parents made it work. And I think it's really important to have those boundaries and kind of realize, hey, we can do the traditional route or we can split it 50-50, however you're comfortable. And that's how, like, I want to be. And, like, that's my personal bias of I want everything to be 50-50. We don't have to do the traditional gender roles. We'll figure it out depending on the situation. But my own personal bias is that I want to work through it. I want to be the one working and I'll help, and I just want to split it 50-50. And I guess I kind of go against that traditional view of gender roles, and I kind of align more with the contemporary view, and I'm not ashamed to say it because it's just kind of how I was raised, to be independent and get your crap done and be who you are, but also making sure that you have an equal shot, like everybody else, that you have an equal shot compared to a man or whoever when it comes to a job or an opportunity. And so that's what I am biased in. I believe in that contemporary view that each set should have an equal part in who they are in decision making, and men are equal to women, or women are equal to men, and men are equal to women. That's how I believe it, and that's my personal bias. And one last note, because I know I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I think I like to talk about these things because I know some of these topics, like gender identity, have been a opinionated topic to talk about in the last couple of years. And I think it's kind of important to have these conversations that are genuine and respected, because I feel like when people are fighting with each other and, digging at one another for personal things and just going after one another, number one, nothing productive is being done. But number two, it just puts more aggression and anger in the world. And I have my personal value and my personal belief that we have enough anger and we have enough aggression and we have enough hate in this world. So if we can have a respectful and kind conversation about like heavy topics like gender identity, changing gender identity, like transgender, the LGBTQ community, stuff like that, I think it's very important because everybody shares a world, and I believe that we should all be the most kind people we can. So having these conversations to me are just very important. But on that note, thank you so much for listening to me ramble, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye!